Namaste. Welcome back to Mindful Serenity Yoga, or Waking Up in a Busy World. And I'm Nancy. We are going to continue on with the answering of questions. And I'm not sure how many questions we've answered so far. I think it's close to 80 or 90 for sure. But anyway, today's going to be another day, another question. So I'm reaching into my jar and going right down to the bottom, see if I can pull up a goodie. So new questions have been added, so it's pretty full in there. I'm going to read the question just quickly. I hope I can answer this one. I'm going to start my timer. I'll take a nice deep breath. Center myself a bit. And I never know where to look, by the way, if my eyes are down or up. The camera's up on top. I have a tendency to look at the eyes of the person I'm looking at, so I'm looking at my own reflection, so I tend to be looking down. Anyway, I'll try to look up. What is the difference between knowledge and knowing? What is the difference between knowledge and knowing? And that's a pretty big, tough answer to question to answer, but it's an important one, I'm sure. When we think of knowledge, we're thinking of accumulation of concepts, ideas, notions, doctrines, dogmas, beliefs. Knowledge comes from what the mind does, what the mind needs to collect in order to feel like it's doing its job. We take information, data from the environment, from historical books, histories that maybe we've never actually experienced ourselves, but our ancestors have or others have, and we bring it into our senses and interpret it, analyze it, and store it. We take information from our environment into our senses, whether it be the weather or the people around us, the noise, the different tastes, the different sensual experiences on the skin, whatever. And we take all that information in and we interpret it, we analyze it, and we store it. We take in our own past histories, things that we've experienced from the time we can remember. All the sensory input is coming into us all the time, and it can almost be overwhelming if we were to realize how much information was coming into us. We select certain things that resonate within us, that cause a certain, I don't want this or I want this, and we store that, we interpret it, we analyze it, we store it. So we're taking all this information, this data in, and we store it as our own, and that is what we call knowledge. Most of us would think of knowledge, or a knowledgeable person, as a person, say, who has several years of university experience, studied many different things, read lots of books, listened to lots of wise teachers and masters, practiced a lot of different things, went to a lot of different places. This is what we could probably consider to be a knowledgeable person. And in the mental concept of knowledge, that is exactly what that person is, knowledgeable. So it's how much we can store inside makes us knowledgeable compared to somebody else maybe who cannot store as much inside. That's how we tend to equate our ability to store knowledge as knowledgeable. Knowing, on the other hand, if we look at it in the esoteric way, look at it in the ethereal way, we'll see that knowing goes beyond what the mind can do. Our knowledge is mental. It's all about the mind, what the mind can take in, what the mind can analyze, what the mind can interpret, what the mind can store. And knowing goes beyond those concepts and those ideas, beyond our conceptual intelligence, beyond that to something that maybe cannot be explained with words or understood with words or ideas or concepts. And that is knowing. So many of us are knowledgeable. Many of us have a lot of knowledge, or some knowledge at least. Few of us at this point in our human evolution have gained the knowing that is essential for our freedom and our true growth. away from what the mind can do to who we really are as human beings. And that's where the difference rises, I guess. Knowing and knowledge are two different things. Knowing is probably more related to the intuitive part of us, that part of us that we can understand, but you get to a certain point in your life where you realize there's something there watching all that's going on, watching me as this little entity, this little ego entity, this little mental being with a mind that's always busy, collecting knowledge, trying to seem knowledgeable. But the knowing is the observer that witnesses the person collecting the knowledge. It's another way of looking at it as well. I can't put my knowing, what I know, into words. I can't explain it to you. I can't teach you it. I can teach you what knowledge I've collected, what information I've collected. I can share it with you and give it back to you because it's just based on concepts. But I can't give you the knowing. The knowing is a purely internal thing. And we can only get to the knowing by getting through the knowledge. And that is essential to our understanding of this as well. We can only get to the knowing by getting through the knowledge. And that's hard to do for many of us because we are so wrapped up in this idea that all there is what can be picked up with the five senses and our intellectual ability to understand things on a conceptual level. We think that's all the mind does. But beyond, and it is what the mind does, but we are more than the mind, we are more than the body. We are that observer beneath it all that's witnessing everything going on and going down, and it's pretty cool to watch, and it creates a lot of freedom when we can get from the knowledge to the knowing, from the person that is knowledgeable to the knower. Well, I know that's a pretty quick answer, but my dogs are barking like crazy. I think there's somebody out there, so I'm going to sign off for now. Thank you so much for joining me, and I hope that answered your question just a little bit. Namaste.